talking defensive storylines for the Huskers going out to Minnesota. And I think the biggest thing is this scheme. I mean, what will the first dose of Tony White's 3-3-5 defense look like? And PJ Fleck already at least has looked at it for a whole year before because he played Syracuse in the bowl game.
Yeah, I do think that it could be an advantage for Nebraska. I think you could see confusion from Minnesota early. The question is how will Minnesota – I think it'll be how quickly does Minnesota adjust. My guess is it'll be pretty evident to the naked eye that there's some confusion early. I think that White will try to do that. It makes sense. Nebraska will move guys around. Hell, they confuse the Nebraska offense in practice. Nebraska's offense sees it every day. They still confuse them. Mm-hmm. So I do think that'll be a factor. Am I wrong?
What do you guys read into the note about Minnesota's new co-defensive coordinator, Nick Monroe, who was at Syracuse on White's staff and served as their defensive coordinator in their bowl game? How much do you think that will reduce the element of surprise on their end, given that he probably knows or has an idea of what White's going to try to do better than anybody?
Yes, I think I definitely think that could help, but White did not run the 3-3-5 with this set of personnel.
That was my answer in the chat.
Yeah, I think that
he didn't have the size on the defensive line like he has in Nebraska. He didn't have Ty Robinson and Mash Hutmacher at Syracuse.
Personnel will determine how you do certain things. So I think it's still an advantage. I think it can be an advantage. I'll be interested to see how much it comes down to. But it comes down to how does Nebraska hold up front?
Oh yeah,
pretty much against Minnesota on both sides of the ball.
Question.
Yeah, on both sides of the ball. That's where your eyes should be most of the game, I think. How is Nebraska holding up front?
The key with the 3-3-5 is where is the fourth/free rusher coming from, or even the fifth?
That's it. Yeah.
And can you confuse them where they don't know?
Right.
And then that confusion creates negative plays that you win downs. Then it helps you kind of reset your second and third down calls if you win downs.
Yep. So,
but on the flip side, you might give up a home run.
It's been a good month. Again, we established that in the previous segment. It's been a good month for that unit. Now let's see under the lights what it looks like, because they're going to be challenged. Now the good news, in my opinion, is Minnesota's strength. To me, this is not Mo Ibrahim anymore. This is their strength. Chris Ottman, Bell, Brevin Spanford, not just those two. They have a good bunch of receivers and a quarterback now that can really throw it, has a strong arm and is going to take chances.
Runs the zone read.
The good news, I think, is that Nebraska's strength is their secondary. If you can get some semblance of rush on Callie McManus, then you should be okay, because the Nebraska secondary is pretty good, I think. I mean, if I could be wrong, but I think they feel really good about, especially the corners.
It's interesting, guys like Deshaun Singleton and Omar Brown. I felt like a year ago they should have been a factor, and they weren't. Now they're starters. And how about for Omar Brown making his homecoming to Minneapolis? He wasn't recruited by the Gophers. And when we did our interviews a year ago with those guys, he brought that up to me. Yeah, that game is always going to be on his mind, playing Minnesota, because these guys didn't recruit him coming out of high school, and he's from the city of Minneapolis.
So he was asked about that this fall, and he downplayed it, just kind of doing the coach speak type thing. But, that day when he did the show with Sean, I talked to him off to the side too for a story for our site. And I asked him that, and I can tell you this game means everything to him, because he's a Minneapolis kid and he grew up wanting to play. He went to camps and they just slow played him, never offered. So he ends up going to Northern Iowa. And so when he got this opportunity in Nebraska, being able to play Minnesota was a big deal. And now he's going to go up there. He's going to have a ton of friends and family at that game. So that one's going to mean a lot for him. So you want to talk about guys with a chip on their shoulder, then when you're looking for X factors, keep an eye on Omar Brown.
One Sip, this. These guys, they know rules listening to these comments and whatnot, and he pays attention. So Omar Brown, like Robin said, he's going to downplay it, but we've heard him speak on this before.
Oh, and you see it. Like that's the one thing that you couldn't really get was like the deep breath before answering, those little whatever tweaks, whatever. But he definitely has something to prove for PJ and crew.
You have to rein it in. You have to rein that in. But I'm sure he'll be fine.
You're listening here to the Husker Online Show as we talk more defensive storylines heading into this game. in Minneapolis. Yeah, the Nick Henrich storyline will be fascinating. Not in a black shirt. That's kind of a surprise because he was a captain a year ago. They're not going to name captains, but I do believe Nick might have got hurt, and that will be something to kind of track. Like, what will his status and availability be out in this game? And the Big Ten is going to require teams to release availability reports 2 hours before kickoff. So Sipple and I have already assigned Robin to write that report for every game.
Let's go. Add to the list.
Just the Big Ten. It's just the Big Ten that's doing this.
Sponsored by Harris Casino.
Yeah, well, the other part of it, why they're doing it. I mean, I was reading about it. Me and Sean were doing the show Friday, and it just had come out. You didn't really know exactly why, although it's generally a common sense discussion. And LSU, by the way, not in the Big Ten, but they're releasing injury reports bi-weekly. And the reason that Kelly's doing it is because he thinks it will stop outside people from peppering his coaches and his players for injury information. That's on his mind in this new kind of day and age we're in. He said, now it's interesting, Brian Kelly said, he goes, I don't know that that's happening or has happened, but we want to be proactive.
Yeah.
I would say at Nebraska, I'm just going to say I wouldn't be surprised if it's happened.
I'm sure it happens everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're a major college football program,
yeah,
especially in a place like Nebraska, people want to know everything, especially about injuries.
Yeah.
What I would appreciate is if we could just go back to the Mike Riley policy, where every Thursday he would take the podium, like, all right, guys, want to start with the injury report, and he would just go off and list everybody who was injured that could or could not play and give a status.
And then what? He would ask if he forgot anybody.
Hey, Sip.
He wouldn't ask me, but he would ask the beat guys if he forgot anybody.
Oh, yes.
So, I mean,
yes.
I personally love that approach.
Anyway, yeah, there's a lot of interesting storylines defensively. Bullock is an interesting storyline. He hasn't played regular downs.
Mm-hmm. Singleton.
Yeah. Singleton has played regular downs.
69.
Bullock, I don't think has played any. Am I mistaken?
None.
No regular downs. He's been on special teams, but he's never been out. I mean, I think you guys have seen him in a podium. Sean, you're very aware of him. I think he has the demeanor to handle this. He's a very no-nonsense guy. I think he'll be fine out there, but you got to watch it. I mean, I don't want to underplay this. This is a pretty tough test for a lot of guys.
Mm-hmm.
Going to Minnesota under the lights and playing a Minnesota team that is very accomplished and is a program.
Yeah,
it's a program.
They know what they are.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm intrigued at what that crowd will be like too. I mean,
sold out.
But is it really? Like, I talked to a ticket guy, and there's just patches of seats that are slowly being released on the secondary market. So is Minnesota kind of controlling the market by how they?
Oh, I see.
And then these tickets get dumped into the secondary market. That's a new trend that's happened around the country. So will it truly be 50,000+ people in that stadium? I'm intrigued because the students are just moving in that week there. So there will technically be students there, but it is Labor Day weekend and they don't start classes till Tuesday.
Mm-hmm. And it's a gold out. So we'll be able to see what the makeup is pretty easily.
Cool.